Hi everyone.
Hi,
So I'm Sil,
I'm Aekam, and welcome to Religion.
where we get real with religion.
Yes. So, our topic for today is feminism and religion,
Mm-hmm.
which is very interesting, and we're both going to present our perspectives on it.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
what do you say?
So my perspective is kind of like very vague, so don't hate me for it. But I think religion like inherently is like feminist, but the way we perceive religion and like the religious text, and I think everything we have about religion today is very like permeated by like man and a man's vision because like it was all passed down by men, written down by men mostly.
Yeah.
So I think that even though religion like at its core should be feminist, there's always going to be some issues here and there simply because like we've had most of our religious teaching and our religious culture from men.
Yeah, yeah. And my perspective is pretty similar. I think it's just the fact that I think two reasons. I think we forget sometimes that religion is different from culture, and culturally we've been brought up in ways that are patriarchal for the most part. And some societies are even matriarchal. South India, for the a lot of societies, a lot of villages, a lot of states in South India are matriarchal, even in the Northeast, and even in the world, I think. But one integral thing that I just would like to establish before we get into the podcast is that feminism is about equality. It is about. It isn't just about um, us wanting to say women are better than men. That is not the thing. I think sometimes it comes across like that because there is innate resentment, I think, especially in women following all the patriarchal upbringing, is that you just inherently feel that you overcompensate by just thinking that, well, men are bad, but that's not it. Feminism is about equality. So, and about of all genders, not just males and females in the strict sense, but yeah. So we're just going to talk a little bit about that. So
Yes,
yeah.
we are. So I think one thing that we both kind of found in our like little research moments was the story of Adam and Eve, and like the difference in like Adam and Eve in Christianity versus Islam is something that like I really want to point out,
Yeah.
because and just pointing out PSA to make sure that like people understand this isn't me like hating on Christianity or something. This is just like me noting the differences in like the religion that I grew up with versus like the mainstream story that like is really pushed out there.
Yeah.
And I think especially when like Adam and Eve is like a universal story in a way, and like Jews have it, Christians have it, like Muslims have it. So one version isn't the right one.
Yeah.
We can never know.
They're versions.
Exactly. I'm sorry, I thought you said virgins. I'm sorry, my ears, my ears.
We're gonna have to edit this.
Yeah. Anyway, so the story of Adam and Eve, as I've been told it's in Christianity, is that like Adam was created from clay and dust, and then he was kind of like lonely, so God took out one of his ribs and made woman out of that, and so it's like woman came from man, and so man is better, yada yada. But the way we were taught, I mean, I was taught in Islam, is that so Adam was made first, that's for sure, and he got very lonely, and then God made Eve, but he didn't make her from Adam's rib. He made her from the same soul, kind of is the way like it's seen. And I had a quote, but I kind of lost it. I'm very sorry. But it basically says the same thing, that like Adam and Eve were made from the same soul, and
Soulmates.
so exactly they're soulmates. They are one. They're like one whole together. They're
Yeah.
like equal halves. And I really like that because it shows that like even in religion where like Eve is like very demonized as well and stuff, in a lot of like contemporary moments where like, oh well, she convinced Adam to bite the apple, yada yada. Well, I was taught differently. For me it's, oh well, no, it was a conscious decision that they made together. The serpent talked to both of them and was like, y'all should eat that apple, and then they did it together because they are soulmates. They're part of one whole. It's not one has more power of the other, anything. No, they are one basically, which I really like. And it's still this idea that like it's not religiously, it's not man is better than woman, or it should not be. It's man and woman are equal. They are together.
Yeah. even in just taking on that point a little bit further, in Hinduism, when during the marriage ceremony, when the priest is saying the prayers, there's a point when he stops, and this happens in all wedding ceremonies, and he says to the couple that from now onwards you're half and half, so you together become one, and all your good karma and your bad karma is going to impact the both of you equally. So I think it kind of derives from that fact that even if you do something individually after that, it does impact both of your lives. So you can't just blame one person, like, Eve is blamed very often in the
100%.
narrative.
Yeah, definitely just to add to that, a little point is also Lilith. I think Lilith is very present in like Judaism and like Christianity and Islam. I honestly didn't know Lilith existed for the longest time because we just don't have her in Islam. Because like in Judaism and Christianity, it was like, oh well, Lilith was made from the same thing as Adam, and so she was like too strong, too like stubborn, and she was too much of her own person, so she was like cast out of heaven. And then Eve was made and she was more subservient and yada yada. And I think I really like that we don't have Lilith for that reason of no, like we're not gonna say, oh well, this woman was too much of her own person and so she was cast out of heaven. That just doesn't sit right with me in a way.
Yeah, no, I feel that. And I think we come, deriving from that strong-headed woman perspective, there are a lot of Hindu mythologies that do talk about strong-headed women, and strong. Okay,
No,
we
I'm
need
just
the dustbin for some
yeah.
reason. And basically, being a strong-headed woman does not mean rude. It just means being able to stand up for yourself. And there are two huge mythologies that are driven in Hinduism: the Mahabharata and the Ramayana. And I don't want to go into too many details because I've been told that I just blabber on about the summaries.
You do, but we love you for that.
So I'm not going to summarize it far too much, but I will put up like a tiny little thing on the screen so you can pause and just quickly read the context of what I'm saying. So in Mahabharata, Draupadi was sexually assaulted. She was her sari, which is like an Indian clothing, was pulled, which was basically, she was trying cheat her, and I don't know how to say it in English, to be very honest, when you just take off someone's clothes by force.
Rip off?
I don't know. I think it just, the word came from that mythology, to be honest, but so you basically just, she was sexually assaulted in front of all of her husbands. She had 5 husbands, like I said. I'll put a little bit of context for that one. But I think that the larger point was 2 things that really reiterated the concept of feminism. The first one is the fact that during this time God himself helped her. So Lord Krishna made an infinite loop out of her sari, so it never truly came off. So they were attempting to pull it, but she was praying, and you can see him in a lot of depictions of Mahabharata, a visual, just adding infinite cloth to her sari, basically, which I think it was meant to show that good men are supposed to protect women and are supposed to protect their integrity, but we've somehow lost that narrative, and that's that. The other thing was after this, she stood before the whole entire court and said, she had very long and luscious hair. She said, I'm not gonna wash or comb my hair till I get to do it with the antagonist's blood. So I want to do it with his blood. And that's when Mahabharata started, basically. And he went, so one of her husbands went up to Lord Krishna and said, should we fight this war? Because it's going to kill a lot of people, a lot of innocent people who had nothing to do with this. And the other side was his family. They were cousins. And Lord Krishna said, it's not always good to take revenge, but it's not always good to forgive either. So I think today when women come up with the stories of sexual assault, tell their families, the families tell them to stay quiet. And inherently, this mythology that dictated most of Hinduism did not show that at all. And we need to bring back that perspective that a woman literally thousands of years ago, I want to see 10,000, 12,000 BC, you know, was able to stand up for herself in this way, and her husband and God himself was on her side. And today we tell women to keep quiet.
Yeah.
Which I think is just a huge slap in the face of your own religion.
It really is. Definitely, I'd like to add on that point, as you said as well, about the fact that like good men are supposed to like protect and help women, and that narrative gets like so lost.
Yeah.
And not only does it get lost, but in my opinion, it also gets so misconstrued. Where like, I know a lot of men that are gonna be like chivalrous and stuff, but then you ask them like, why are you so chivalrous? They'll say like, well, because like you're a woman, so I have to do it. And it's like, yes, I am a woman, and it's nice to like treat
I'm
me
also
nice.
human.
Exactly, but like also, people take this narrative like good men are supposed to like help and protect women, and take it as we have to help and protect women because they're weak. They just love to add the like because they're weak to it, when that's not what it was meant to be at the core. It was just this idea that like we are equal and we complete each other, so we need to like protect each other. It's not the idea that like, oh well, you have to protect me because I'm weak. That's People just love to like kind of misconstrue the idea of chivalry and push it into a narrative of women are weak, when that's really not what it is.
Just I think this is a great point to mention. A Journey to Bethlehem.
Oh my gosh, yes. Yes, I introduced her to this movie. I'm actually so proud. I recommend it to everyone, but Journey to Bethlehem is basically this like musical thing about how Mary and Joseph met, and like the journey until like Jesus gets born. And it's a really good movie. First of all, because in my opinion, like what I've always been taught about like Mary, and what I think most people have been taught, is just like, well, yeah, no, she was a virgin, Holy Ghost, she had Jesus, and that's kind of what you know about her. She's like the Holy Mother, but that's it. When in Journey to Bethlehem, she was a smart woman, and that's
very educated woman.
Exactly, and that's why she was like chosen to birth like Jesus, is because she wanted to be a teacher, and she ended up being a teacher to like one of the most important people that like was born at the time. And like I just really like that
she raised the Son of God. Is that not like, does that not tell you that she was picked for the reason that she was extremely intelligent, had a lot of values, and was extremely educated?
Exactly.
She knew her religious texts.
She didn't she know them by heart or something?
She knew them by heart.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's like I really like the idea that like this movie just kind of put a little spin on it, where like she was still a mother and stuff, and that's great. But she wasn't just a mother. She was a smart and educated and driven woman, which I love. And also the fact that they kind of put some respect on like Joseph's name as well. And what I mean by that is that like he wasn't just like the guy that was there, but like they were a team as well, which I think
when she got pregnant, and the entire community thought, well, she had committed adultery because she was I want to just say engaged, because
she betrothed.
Yeah,
engaged. Just say engaged.
She was engaged to
Joseph.
Yeah, and when the entire community did not believe her, he did. He believed her.
Exactly.
He believed that she was with the child of God. Yeah.
Exactly, and like they were a team. Again, it's this idea of like equality. She was chosen because she was the one with the womb, but she was the smart and driven one, and he was there and he like supported her. I love that his whole job basically at this point was to support her.
And I approve. That's how a couple should be, to be honest. Which, just a little blinker, our next episode is going to be on relationships.
I'm so excited for that.
Religion. Yeah, I'm so excited for that as well. Just taking this point forward, back into Hinduism a little bit, we have Lord Shiv and his wife, Mata Parvati, who are basically the supreme couple, okay? And they're also depicted as Ardhanarishwar, in which it's one god, half Shiv and half Parvati. So it's Ardhanarishwar, half. And again, the idea of soulmates and the idea of my better half comes in here. And there's a small incident in which she takes on one of her, she basically she has a lot of versions of herself, right? And one of the versions is the goddess of destruction.
Oh my gosh, yes, I remember when you told me that
Yeah,
in the temple.
yeah, she was there, Kali,
Yeah.
with yeah. So she basically the goddess of destruction, and she went on a killing spree because someone hurt a little child, and she she was the motherly instinct. So she went on a killing spree. Anything that came in front of her, she killed. And so all the gods eventually had to go to Lord Shiv and said, "You have to stop your wife. She's killing literally everything that's coming, and we've tried. She's gonna kill. Ultimately, she's gonna kill the gods as well. Like, you have to do something. Firstly, strength. That was her strength. And Lord Shiv said, guys, I'm supreme and stuff, but I can't stop her. Like, you think I can stand there and be like, stop, and she's gonna listen to me? No. So what he did was he said, you know what? She loves me, and if there's one thing that she does is she loves me, she respects me. Okay, so he said, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna lie down, and trick her into stepping on my chest. And when she steps on my chest and she looks down and sees it's her husband, she will stop. So he went to the extent of letting his wife step on his chest because he could not match her power. Is there anything more feminist than that?
I love that, honestly. I really love that.
Yeah.
Because I feel like, I mean, there's this one quote, I don't know if you heard this, but like, hell has no fury, like a woman scorned. And I will always love that because, like, also the idea of like hell and who presides over hell is like this man, Satan,
Yeah.
But like, even hell doesn't have the power of a woman you've done wrong to. It's just, it sits so right, especially because I think women, like, it's always the thing of like, oh, women are so emotional or whatever. And like, first of all, I mean, come on, but also, inherently, is that a bad thing? To be in touch with your emotions, is that actually such a bad thing when you think about it? Well, in my opinion, we're in a world where everyone is so like pragmatical and like this and this and this and this. Where like sometimes it's just good to be in touch with your emotions and to have that, like, be empathetic.
Yeah, they say that when a woman takes revenge, devil sits back and takes.
Exactly. Exactly. Just
and
that.
there's a very nice film about this called Bulbul, and it's such an iconic scene. Every single time I see it, I laugh. The man comes to his wife, and she's absolutely gorgeous, and she's in this Indian attire, like she's royal, and he comes to her and says that, there's this man who's gone on a killing spree, and he's like, who can kill in such a gruesome way? What kind of man is this? And she smiles at him and says, why can't it be a woman? And he says, what kind of woman would do this? And it's her the whole time.
Okay, spoiler, but it's fine. It's fine. No, I love that.
So and not encouraging murder here, but just saying that
just the idea that exactly like women, women are women
very strong. If they want to be, strong. They can be very strong. And I mean, they push kids out of their body.
Exactly. That's what I mean by like, why is being emotional such a bad thing? Well, like I think most of our strength comes from like having such deep emotions.
I think in all religions we refer to Earth as Mother Earth.
Yeah.
Dharti Ma. It's always a mother. It's a female energy. Mm-hmm. And again, going back to that, I'm glad I brought it up because in Ramayana there are multiple instances of this, and goddess Sita was born out of Earth. She was the Earth's daughter, and when she had been kidnapped and taken to Lanka and then brought back, and every single story will stop at Lord Ram, goddess Sita, and Lord Lakshman walking back into Ayodhya, and that's it. That's the end of the story. They've all come back after 14 years. We celebrate Diwali. End of story. But actually, there is an additional chapter that talks about how Sita was asked to give to give Agni Pariksha, which is an oath on fire, and fire was an element that life could be born out of at the time. So it was a huge deal. An oath on fire basically means that if you're lying, just there is no fire in the world anymore, everyone dies, thank you.
Oh,
so yeah.
Oh, that's a big one.
Yeah. So it was the ultimate test. You can't lie. So she took an oath, because everyone said that you have been staying with this man, someone else, a demon Ravan who had kidnapped her, with this man, and we need to know that you did not have inappropriate relationships with this man. And it's kind of funny to think in retrospect that they were god and goddesses, because no one would have questioned them, but at the time they did not know. They were not self-aware gods and goddesses. So so she took an oath just to clear. So where I stopped was they were not self-aware gods and goddesses, but she was basically asked to take an oath on fire to prove her innocence, and she took it to for just the honor and respect of her husband, and herself. And once she proved her innocence, but she had already felt so humiliated, that she said, I can't be here anymore, and I can't be with Lord Ram anymore, because he didn't stop it. That was one of his biggest character flaws. Otherwise, till now, he's seen to be one of the most amazing husbands in Hindu mythology. And she just said, "Mother, will you take me back?" And earth opened up and took her back. And I think that's a very important narrative to keep in mind, especially now when women get married. Her parents say, "Don't think this is your house anymore. Don't think of ever coming back. That's your house now. That's your religion now. Your husband." And even that's never going to be her house. That is the basically the sad part, is that she's always going to be an other in her husband's house, and she's always going to be now a third party in your house, which is just upsetting. So I think this is where it comes in, that you tell your daughters, you tell the women in your family that they can come back whenever they want. And literally one of the most pure and the most kind-hearted women in Hindu mythology, goddess Sita, has set that example for them, and her mother has set that example by taking her back without any questions. So I think we need to preach less and do more as a society, because we can just.
I like that quote.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, but yeah, no, it's a great quote. But yeah, no, I agree definitely on that as well. Of like, I think we there's so much more that, like, even from a religious perspective, we need to teach our like daughters and sisters and blah, blah, our women more of like, first of all, if they want to come back, like come back, no questions asked, first of all, but also just in general, like the things of like education, and I think that's gonna go into your point with the three goddesses as well.
Yeah.
The like education, money, all of that, like that is stuff that like women, like in religion, they tell you that like women are entitled to their own money, to having their own power. Exactly, Islam. Like I grew up with like my dad telling me your money is your own. Like if you want to steal your husband's money or whatever, fine, not steal, but you know what I mean. Like the idea that like a husband's money is their
family money.
It's family money, but a woman's money is her own, which I mean, I think it's really important, especially when like all the other societal expectations that like are on women, and then you're gonna say, well, but your money's really your husband's money or whatever. No, her money is her money.
People nowadays, especially, I don't know if this is a world thing or it's a South Asian thing, where they say that marriages nowadays don't work because the youth is all ruined, and we were such amazing people, we were committed, and I'm just out here being like, well, you were committed because you had nowhere else to go. The women had nowhere else to go, so they had no choice. I think the idea of a true loving marriage is, or a true respect, mutual respect, is that you choose to be in the relationship. Okay, you don't just stay in it because you have no choice, you can't leave. So I think the larger point, like I would not want my partner to be with me because he has nowhere else to go. I think that's not the point.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, exactly. So it's an idea of like choice, and with that choice comes as well some individuality.
Yeah.
Like you are like two parts of one whole, but at the end of the day, you're still two parts.
Yeah.
Which means that like certain things, like your money has to be your own money, and we need to teach. Like I was lucky enough, like that's something my parents were always like very very adamant about. They were like, your money is your own, and like education as well. Like Islam is a whole religion of education. That's one of the most important things that like my parents have ever taught me about religion, is that like we come from a religion that like was at some point like the height of the educational world
Yeah.
in medieval times, like in the nicest way possible. Western medieval times, that was not the place, dude. Meanwhile, like the Muslim world at that time was doing pretty well.
Yeah, so was the Hindu world.
Is that like in general, like that was the moment
The
where like the
East was
East
doing great,
was
yeah.
doing very well, and that is because we had a culture of knowledge and education, and it wasn't reserved to men. It was a universal thing. Like education is just so heavily important, and like it's always been in like any religion if you look at it, like even like
I was talking. I was just gonna talk about
Yeah.
Hinduism. Is that you have the three goddesses of the goddess of power, Suma Durga, the goddess of education. You've got Mata Saraswati, and the goddess of money. You've got Lakshmi, and the three goddesses of three things that we deprive our girl children of, which is just sad to me, because how is it that we pray to these women to get education, to get money, to get jobs, to get power, and then not want to give it to the actual females in our family?
Yeah.
It makes no sense. And I think again, this, I feel like we as a society do a lot of meaning, like a lot of we do a lot of actions and we do a lot of stuff religion related without being mindful of what we're actually doing. We just do it because we've been taught to do it, and we
Yeah.
forget to actually think about it. Think about what you're doing. Like, if you are waking up every day praying to these goddesses and you're telling your child that she's only made to get married one day and she should not get an education, or girls who are too educated are immoral, or they are exposed to the wrong kind of society, the wrong kind. When I was coming here, a lot of people told my parents that she's going abroad, she's a lone girl going abroad, what do you think is gonna? I don't drink, I don't smoke.
You're actually like the most chill person out here. Like,
So I'm
you
just
are
like,
you are the type of like society people should more be like exposed to. More people should be in the president.
no, I love you. No. So I'm just trying to say that you raise your children with values and you let them do what they want to do with their lives. You cannot keep them in cages all your life and then expect that they flourish someday just out of the blue. It's like we make jokes about we are not allowed to make boyfriends at a young age, and then a random 24-year mom's like, well, we should get you married. Is there someone like, you did not give me an opportunity?
Yeah, 100%.
Like, and this is not for me. I'm just talking in general.
No, I agree.
Like,
I agree. But that's definitely the thing of like.
It's in
like,
general. That's the same with
yeah,
education.
it
And
is.
it's so upsetting. If I feel like we just give so much more as a society. We give so many more opportunities to men. We're just designed to give opportunities to men. Even in a scientific, I remember we spoke about this a couple of days ago about in medicine is sexist.
Yeah.
It's not just religion we're talking about here.
Yeah.
So it's very upsetting, and there's a dialogue in Hindi film called Gangubai, which is कि जब शक्ति सद्बुद्धि संपत्ति तीनों ही औरतें हैं तो मर्दों को किस बात का गुरूर, which translates to when power, education and money, all three are women, then what are men so proud of? Which I think is something.
I really like that.
Yeah.
But 100%, and I feel like that is like we said, like it's in Hinduism, but it's in so many like ancient religions as well. Sikhism, yeah, but that's like modern religion.
Yeah,
but
that
even
is
way back when, like, I mean, they're not mainstream religions now anyway, but like we still take a lot from like Greek, Roman mythology and stuff. And it's like when you think about it, like the goddess of Medusa, to be fair though, Medusa was a protector of women.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, but also like in actual like goddesses, like the goddess of wisdom, Athena. I know Aphrodite is mostly seen as the god of love, like goddess of love and beauty, but fun fact, one of her personalities is actually also like the goddess of war.
Yeah.
Aphrodite, who's like love and beauty, is also war, because women can be multiple things. One of the deities that like
I
most
think Greek mythology is so similar to Hindu mythology.
It probably is.
So many
it
crosses.
probably is.
Even in stories, like I see it all the time.
A lot of like religions have like very similar things. Also, like some of the like goddesses that people were most afraid of, like everyone was absolutely afraid of Hera because she, like, if she was wronged, she would go after you. Or like one of the very first like gods to like spring out of chaos, Nyx, goddess of the night. So like at the end of the day, all throughout history, women and goddesses have been such an inherent part of like some of the most important part of like wisdom, money, power. All of these things are so important to our societies and like contribute so much to how we built our societies.
Yeah.
But then
Like, the three goddesses I was talking about in Hinduism, they say that when you marry someone, or when you are in a relationship with someone, um, those women in your life, like your girlfriends, your wives, your daughters, your mothers, your sisters, basically all the women in your life are representations of those three goddesses, right? So you keep them happy, you will always have good education, you will always have good money. It's good karma basically, and you'll make these goddesses happy because you're keeping the women in your life happy. So they are the way to those goddesses. And I saw this beautiful depiction of um, goddess Lakshmi standing outside with tears in her eyes, standing on the doorstep of a house and watching domestic abuse inside, and she with tears in her eyes, and she just didn't go inside. Which is like, you will never have money, you will never have education if you treat the women in your life like that. And I know we see so many people in power doing that,
yeah,
but just know that your karma is coming for you. It is a rule that never misses. So if you think I got away by hurting some female entity in my life, you didn't. I hope
yeah,
you know
yeah,
that.
definitely.
I have to throw a I hope you know that in all my episodes.
That is so real. I think that I hope you know that like that quote needs to come back. That's
Yeah.
that's gonna
It's gonna just be, we need to keep a count of how many times I say that.
We do, we really do. But yeah, but I definitely agree as well. Like you need to treat the women in your life with like so much love and respect and everything. And I feel like in again Islam, because that's all I know, guys. To be fair, like I'm gonna be talking about Islam a lot here, but like in Islam, like the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, his first wife, she was like a businesswoman in her own right. She had money, she had caravans. Like she was the one who facilitated. Yeah, that's the word. Like facilitated so much for him because she had the means. He like so nicely towards him, but he wasn't like the like successful one at that point. She was, because she had the money, she had the business like capabilities and stuff. And I mean, yeah, she was a widow, so maybe she inherited some part of it from like her past husband, but so what, she got it and then she kept it. She managed to make it flourish. And I think that's just the idea of like your wives, just because your wife is more successful than you doesn't mean that like you failed as a man or whatever kind of narrative
And
people push now.
On the other side of the coin, if your wife is not as successful as you, if she is a homemaker, that does not give you any right over her. She is still a person who's taking care of your entire house for free.
Exactly. So like to be fair, like why does it matter so much on your own like self-confidence what your wife does, whether she is a homemaker or she's like the most successful person out there? At the end of the day, she's still supposed to be your equal, your wife, like the love of your life, all of those things.
In Ramayana, when Lord Ram and Lord Sita were exiled for 14 years and they lost their kingdom, they lost all their gold, their jewels, the luscious cloth they used to wear. They were in the jungles. There are no makeup artists there. There's no fun. And there's no one doing your work for you. You have to do everything yourselves. And Sita's hands got rough. She looked very rough because imagine living in a forest with so many years ago, amongst all these animals. And she was having a conversation with someone. I can't particularly remember at what point in the story this was. And she said, our relationship would have never worked out if our marriage had been between, the prince of one state and the princess of the other state. It was between Lord Ram and goddess Sita. That's how it worked, because it was between two individuals and not a prince and a princess. And I think that's where it comes, that at the end of the day, in highs and in lows, in sickness and in health, and I think we should keep that in mind. Like it is literally enshrined in the Bible, in sickness and in health.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's also why a lot of like marriages that are done out of, like you said, like out of like social standing, end up like falling apart, whether internally or like externally, but there's always going to be like that. If you aren't marrying someone for who they are but for what they like represent, it's never gonna work, because then you're not marrying the person in the good and the bad, and like
You see
life
this,
is not gonna be all good.
I feel like we've come a full circle because we started with the Adam and Eve.
That's not Adam and Eve. That's
Oh
Joseph
shit.
and
My bad.
you're
we
bad
have
with-
come we have come halfway through back
Yeah.
to
yeah. No, but
Mary
to
and
be
Joseph.
fair, to be fair, it does also come back to Adam and
Adam
Eve.
and Eve. Does
Because
it?
at the end of the
Because
day,
I was
when
thinking about Mary and Joseph the whole time, and
Oh
I got
yeah,
lost.
no.
Yeah.
To be fair, but also Adam and Eve, like when they were like cast out of Eden and they had to like live in this basic like wasteland, just the two of them, like that is rough. But they, they made it happen. I mean,
Yeah.
there were some issues with their children, but we don't talk about that. We don't
Yeah.
talk about it because that's not the point. The point is that like because they were equal, they managed to make it work. If you're at the end of the day, if you don't see men and women as equal, all relationships in your life between like different genders are always gonna fall apart, because if you don't see man and women as equal, if you're working on that hierarchy, all genders that come in the rest of the thing, you will also see as like you if you're working on a scale, there's always going to be a hierarchy, whether it be like man, women, non-binary. Would you place non-binary people then? Are they like better than women but less than men? Blah blah. I mean, to be fair, I think if you're sexist, you probably end up being like non-binary and transphobic too. But imagine you're not. Let's imagine you're not. It's still the idea that like if you work on a hierarchy, any relationship you're gonna have with like different genders is always gonna fall apart, because there's gonna be that issue of, well, I think I'm better than you, or I think I'm less than you, so I'm gonna change the way I act and I'm gonna change the way I am to like please you or please myself or whatever, which like that's not how it's supposed to work.
Yeah. And I think, like we were just talking about Sikhism for a bit, and then you mentioned it was a modern religion, right? And I think it was, it is the first religion to explicitly mention in its text that we need to have an equal footing of men and women. So big shout out. Thank you, Guru Nanak Dev Ji, if you're listening to me. But so what I'm trying to say is that it says explicitly in its text that and not only is it theoretical, but in a lot of practical ways, it is one of the only religions in which women have actually taken charge of the battlefield. They've taken charge of protection of of the religion, of its people, and it took a lot of sacrifice from everyone's end, and a lot of these sacrifices were made by women, and they are seen as heroes in Sikhism. So I would just like to read like a tiny thing that is mentioned in Sikhism that, like I said, like it's pretty explicit in nature, is that man is born from a woman, within woman man is conceived. To a woman he is engaged and married. Man is friends with woman. Through woman the future generations exist. When this woman passes away, he seeks another woman. To woman a man is bound. So why call her bad? From her kings are born. From a woman, woman is born. Without woman, there would be no one at all.
You know what I really like about that quote, by the way? I love that it says, like, from women, kings are born, and then from woman, woman is born. And that, like, it's the thing, like, everything is born from woman, and, like, kings are born from her, great. But also women are born from her,
Women.
great, too. Like, it just shows
Yeah.
that very much, like, no matter who's born from her, it's still important because someone is born. And then I love that, like, with women, he is friends. Because, like, men and women can be friends, guys. That's a thing that exists.
Draupadi and Krishna, if for anyone who knows Mahabharata, the god who made an infinite loop of a sari, they are said to be completely platonic friends, not even like siblings, they're just friends.
Exactly.
And I think that is important.
It is so important. And to be fair, like, I also hate that people are like, well, men, like, I've heard someone say, like, even if they're not equal, men and women still can't be friends because they're always gonna end up, like, attracted to each other. And I'm like, no,
I have nothing to say about that. For a multitude of reasons, and because I do want to see it in practice at least once in my life.
No, but just to be fair, like, that's the first of all, that's not how attraction works, guys. Like, but also, like, if people actually think that, that's so exciting. Like, I'm ready for men. I swear, but also, I know my girls, they also want to be friends with men sometimes. Again, but never stop. We have one guy friend. No, you have one guy friend. We collectively have one close guy. We collectively have one close guy. Like, I actually just have one guy. Yeah, but I have a few. I have a few guy friends. I know this. We love you. Nicholas. But yeah, no, I have guy friends, like, here. I have some back home that, like, you don't want these guys to be fair. Like, if they ever just be like, hey, I'm in the sea, when I know, I'd be like, yeah, let's go. Because they are fun, and, like, we can be friends. Like, if it's possible. I would never get with any of them. Just, like, I wouldn't. Like, I love them, but I wouldn't. But that doesn't mean that, like, that's not, like, on a big gender scale thing. No, it's just their personality.
About this, I would have to double speed this while editing.
Honestly,
that would be. It would sound so much funnier. It's gonna sound so much funnier. I'm not even gonna lie. Imagine you saying all of this on double speed and in like animated voice.
Are people even gonna understand that?
I really hope so. Yeah. The other thing that I want to say, which is like completely taking the conversation away from friends, is lovers.
Yeah.
We now, as a society, look really down on relationships and love marriages, and at least in the East, it's pretty looked down upon, and a very large part, like recently, I felt so bad because after so long in India, live-in relationships are now legally recognized as relationships, and they have some sort of, people are doing it more in India. And it's very upsetting because in the last 1 year, we've just started accepting this. There have been insane cases of violence, and a woman was found. I want to be done drinking tea because it's going to be very gruesome. Is that a woman was found cut in pieces, wrapped in polythene bags in the man's fridge in a live-in relationship.
Okay.
Yeah. So I just want to say for those men out there, because a lot of these men claim to be religious, and I'm talking like not the nice religious, like in taking to one extreme where you basically don't even know your own religion at this point. It's more of a culture thing. Like when I say that you mix religion and culture.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, we have that with Islam as well in a way. Like like terrorists and stuff. They're like from one specific branch of Islam and stuff, and then they're like, well, I'm actually doing such a great thing for like my religion.
You're ruining your religion's reputation.
I swear. And then they're like, well, when I die and I go to heaven, I'll have like 40 virgins with me. And I'm like, first of all, you're not going to heaven, babes, and second of all, like. So
which
that's like also like the fact that like you want like 40 women and like they have to be virgins and they have to be pure and that's the only way women should be. Like, no, get a reality check, get a real job, and like chill.
Don't stop.
Take a chill
pill.
Stop
saying that you're representing your religion, and that's even for the nice religious people. It's always your interpretation of your religion, and we respect that.
Yes.
As long as you're not a terrorist, we respect that.
I like that you added that.
But I was going with this point to to Lord Krishna and Radha. They were lovers. Some texts say they got married, some say they didn't. So I'm just gonna leave that hanging. But for the most part, they were considered lovers. And they were in fact considered. She was considered the physical manifestation of his soul. So she was actually not entirely a different person, neither was she a soulmate. She was just the physical manifestation of his soul, which is very beautiful to me. And I think we sometimes forget that he had a female soul. He was a very, very warm man, and there is a saying in all his stories is that his heart laid in Radha's feet. So he used to hold her feet and cry, and out of love. That's how much he loved her. And now, I see people get married, and in Hindu religion, one of the first things they tell you to do after getting married is touch your husband's feet, and out of respect, which you usually just do for the elders. And I'm like, are we not learning anything from our religion? He used to sit in her feet, not the other way around.
Yeah. Honestly,
But
but yeah, I mean, we are kind of going over time, but
we
I
are.
think
But
I think this has
we have
been
a
a
couple
good
of minutes to edit. Yeah.
true,
Yeah.
too. But I think this has been a very good episode.
This has been a great episode.
Yeah, I think we've really
definitely stayed on topic. That is one check
Yes!
for us. It took 2 tries, but we did it.
We did. No, honestly, I hope you guys liked it. I really did enjoy the conversation. And I think just one last point that I really want to bring up is that, like, all of this and everything we're talking about, and, like, religion, like you said, is so much about, like, interpretation. And everyone interprets it so differently that, like, no one is, like, saying religion is this and that's how it is, because that's not how it works. So, yeah, just take everything with a grain of salt when you're thinking about feminism, relationships, whatever you're thinking about in relationship to, like, religion. Just grain of salt.
It's just a good place to get guidance in your life, which I think, like, especially in the times when I've been lost, when you don't know what you're doing anymore, you don't know if you're doing the right thing, read your religion. You know, sometimes it gives you answers that you can't find anywhere else. You know, there's a movie called Oh My God.
We watched that.
We watched the second one. The first one I will show you sometime.
Okay.
But so OMG first one, which created a huge, huge thing in Bollywood back in the day in 2012, and there's a tiny part of it in which God manifests himself as a lawyer, not really a lawyer, like manifests himself as a house guest, like a person living on rent, but he's also like a law expert, and he tells the guy, the main person in the film, how to win the case. And he says, and the person is an atheist, okay? And he says, every single problem that you're telling me, every single answer is in this book. And he hands over the Bhagavad Gita to him. And I think that's an important thing to remember, is that we think about religion as this backward thing, but actually if we look at it with fresh eyes and an open heart, we can find a lot of our answers in there, when we are feeling lost. And the most beautiful thing about that film, that you love it, every single night when he used to sleep, he used to switch the book. So it was Bhagavad Gita, then it was the Bible, then it was the Quran, and he used to switch the book. So he got all the religious perspectives.
I really love that, especially because that brings back to the point of, like, religion can bring you so many answers. And, like, if you don't want to be like this big crazy religious person, you don't have to be. If you're just thinking, this is an interesting book, let me, like, read it and see if some stuff resonates, and it does, and then it's like, great, well, I can just use this.
Read it as a storybook.
Exactly.
Stories have a lot of stories have one of the best moral of the story, which really helps you in life. Like, whenever I'm feeling sad and I need some support, I literally rewatch Kung Fu Pandas. Are they not the best? They have the nicest moral.
We should go see the new one together.
You know what? My dad's gonna be watching this and he's gonna feel betrayed.
We can go with him.
We will go with him.
Yay!
We will go with him because he really wants to watch it. And I'm just saying that.
Wait, if my dad comes at the same time, we can take both our dads.
Yeah, that'll be slay. But yeah, so what we were saying was basically that read it as a story, and if you are out here believing, like, watching mythology, like, I don't even, like, not mythology, bad word, fantasies, like, I don't know, Game of Thrones, what else, Twilight.
Okay, no, please don't take any lessons from Twilight.
No, don't.
Begging you.
I haven't seen it. I'm just saying, if you can do all of that, just read it as a story, like a fantasy book. Like, it's all I'm saying, like, if you can actually
but still
draw lessons.
Don't take any lessons from Twilight. I am begging you.
I haven't watched it. I just want to preface this, if my parents are watching, I swear I've not watched it. And I actually have not watched it. I just know the story, like a broad storyline.
Yeah, no, I mean, to be fair, everyone knows the broad storyline of Twilight. Anywho, before we get into another rampage,
thank you so much.
Thank you so much for watching.
We shall see you soon with relationships and religion, which I hope there's not a lot of shade from our side to certain people. But, yeah.
Bye.